All you gotta have to use our slider or time-lapse dolly, if you want to name it that way, is bring over your camera and bring over a timer or a controller that is capable of firing your camera every second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever you want it to be, but you would have a frequency in it. There's several brands that are good for each one of the cameras existing out there. We're going to start showing you how the dolly is assembled and how it's operated. Now I'm going to describe what is it that you get when you pick up your slider or motion control dolly. A couple of rails, they're pre-assembled, and they have 7 feet in between the bars. 2 supports, a couple of clamps, it's a clamp arrangement to sustain your belt, a couple of sandbags, a battery, and the heart of the system is a motorized cart that is capable of dragging the machine with this belt that is going to be attached to each side of the slider, and that brings along a small speed controller. The cart has 2 modes. One is for high speed, that would be for instead of doing a time lapse, what you're doing is rolling normal video at a certain speed. We're going to demonstrate that later on. And the slow speed end of it is the one that we're going to assemble in the first stage. It has a connection, lighter type, to the battery, and that will be enough to make it move. So now what I'm going to show you is how is it that you assemble this. The only tool we provide and you will need to put the dolly together is a wrench key, an Allen wrench key. And that will be all. I'll start putting the dolly together, and you're going to see step by step what is it that I'm doing. I'm going to be very explanatory. First, I'm going to take one of the bases or feet. I'm going to bring it to one end, slide that end in, until it gets into the hole. It will have a certain height, and then you take your wrench key. I'm going to take it out of the pocket and tighten it up. And once I got that, I'm going to come over the other side with the other leg. Which I'm going to slide in the same way that we did before with the first side. And I'm going to tighten it up. There's 2 feet systems we have. I'm going to show you one right now that is really meant to work outdoors. Why? Because it can take a lot of hit from the wind blowing into the machine. And that's going to be helpful in stabilizing usually a difficult shot. So basically what I do is I put these feet each side of the legs. Same thing over the other side. What I'm going to do is secure so the wind doesn't take this anywhere, with a couple of sandbags on each side. I'm going to take the little cart, put it on the rails. As you can see, it moves back and forth really very easily, very smoothly. We're going to attach one end of the belt to one side, the other onto the other side. We're using one is going to be a tightener for the belt, and then the clamp will secure this tightener to the end of the rig. What I'm doing is putting this guy in first, getting it as close as possible to the edge and secure it with a clamp. So I'm going to take the other end bring it in, do exactly the same thing, push it in, it adjusts by pressure. We're going to clamp it to this side of the rig. The belt gets through the center. You open up this clamp too. Go through the center, give it just a little bit of slack, and flip it around so you kind of bow it or lace it. And that will make it really strong to any tension, which is what you need to make the whole movement really very stable. So let's bring this guy along. Same thing, open up the clamp, pass it through, and now it's the tensioning part. So all you're gonna do is drag it as strong as you can without breaking the belt, please. And we got the rig almost ready to be rolling. That's enough tension. If you want to improve it anyway, you can add on a little bit of weight when there's windy situations and you see that the belt is flipping back and forth. That's no good for a camera movement of this kind. And that will be enough to keep the tension really tight enough to make the whole movement very, very stable. You get your battery, plug it in. You also plug the positive and negative leads to the motor so it's connected, and this is provided also with a switch that you can just switch the polarity over here instead of needing to unswitch the whole arrangement. You have your control. It's analog. There's no programming necessary on this. You just turn the switch on, and there it is. It's moving. It's just that it's so slow. Remember, this is for time-lapse. So basically, this needs to move really very slow. So slow that you can bring down the speed to a minimum. And that will do for the whole 7. Say, for instance, that you're shooting 1 frame every 10 seconds. The whole travel from one side to the other will take about 45 minutes, and that will do 170 to 180 shots. We're talking about a 5-second take. Very, very slow. All the clouds will move really fast, and use as much as possible the object of your conversation in the video, as static or as solid as possible, and let the clouds and the rest of the sunset and the movement of things that usually you wouldn't even perceive that they're moving, you're going to see that they move in your time lapse really very fast. Still working, hasn't stopped going. And if you want to leave these alone, there is a little spot over here. You can slide your control in. I shouldn't do this while I'm shooting, of course. I'm going to stop it a second, mount the camera, and you're going to see it moving at different speeds. We're going to install in the ball head existing in our unit. Once it's tight, you put it back into the base, tighten it up. Let's slide it in first. Okay, there we go. Tighten it up. It has a marker of the angle that you may shoot. It's an hydraulic head too. And yes, you can make a horizon, make your horizon straight, tighten it up again, and you have the camera ready to start shooting. The only other additional thing you need to do is get your controller, your timer, plugged into the camera, go to your frequency, put the interval, the amount of seconds of interval in between shots, and that's when you press start. It already did the first one. I lost 2 shots. And I started putting it to work. And there it is.